I was cleaning the old attic of my childhood home, moving dusty boxes and forgotten toys, when my hand brushed against something hard under a loose floorboard. At first, I thought it was just debris, an old nail, maybe a coin, but as I nudged it, a small, yellowed envelope slid out. My heart skipped a beat. Written on it in delicate, looping handwriting was my childhood nickname, one I hadn't heard in decades. A flood of memories hit me all at once. The nickname wasn't just a word, it was a piece of me I had left behind, a time when life felt simpler and the world hadn't hardened around me. My fingers trembled as I held the envelope, wondering who had left it there. My parents? A friend? Or someone I had completely forgotten? I sat down on the dusty attic floor, clutching it like it held the answers to a lifetime of questions. The scent of the paper was faintly nostalgic, the edges worn and soft. Carefully, I opened it. Inside, a folded note waited, fragile as if it had been preserved just for this moment. As I unfolded it, memories long buried began resurfacing, of laughter, tears, and moments I had thought lost forever. I realized then that this small envelope wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a key to my past, a reminder of the person I used to be, and perhaps, a message I was meant to hear now, in this moment of quiet solitude. Little did I know, what I was about to read would unravel secrets, awaken old emotions, and change how I saw my own story forever. As I unfolded the note, my eyes landed on the first line, written in the same looping handwriting. I hope this finds you when you're ready to remember. My chest tightened. Memories I had long buried began surfacing, sunny afternoons in that small backyard, laughter echoing through the house, the nickname my father used for me when no one else was around. It was strange, almost surreal, to feel both comfort and pain at once. The note continued, recalling moments I had almost forgotten, the tiny victories I had celebrated quietly, the secret tears I had cried when life was too heavy for me to bear alone. Each word was precise, almost knowing, as if whoever had written it understood my life better than I did myself. I sank onto the dusty attic floor, clutching the envelope tightly. Questions swirled in my mind. Who had left this note? How had they remembered all these little details? And most importantly, why now, after all these years? For the first time in a long while, I felt a mixture of hope and fear. Hope that someone remembered me, really remembered me, and fear that uncovering these memories might bring things I wasn't ready to face. I took a deep breath and decided to keep reading, knowing that the next words could change everything I thought I knew about my past. The note's next lines made me stop mid-breath. Do you remember the treehouse behind the old garage? The place where you whispered your dreams? I closed my eyes and was instantly transported back decades. I could see the rough wooden ladder, worn smooth in spots from my tiny hands. The air smelled faintly of pine and sun-warmed wood. The splinters I had always complained about suddenly seemed like badges of honor, little reminders that I had survived childhood in all its fragile beauty. Memories came rushing back in vivid, painful waves. I remembered climbing up with my best friend, our laughter echoing in the empty backyard, sharing secrets no one else could know. I remembered the tiny pieces of paper I had tucked into the corners of that treehouse, letters I had written to the universe, full of dreams and wishes that felt too fragile to speak aloud. I had hoped someone, someday, would read them and understand me. And then I remembered the day everything changed. I had climbed the ladder one afternoon and found my little letters gone, snatched away or perhaps swept away by time. My sanctuary had been violated, and with it, the innocence of that moment had slipped through my fingers. That hurt had stayed buried, hidden beneath layers of adulthood and responsibility, but holding this envelope now, that old ache reawakened. Somehow, the note knew. Whoever had written it knew the treehouse, the letters, the secret dreams that had once lived only there. It was like someone had been watching my heart all along, keeping a silent record of the little pieces of me that mattered most. My chest tightened. I hugged the envelope to my heart, a bittersweet ache twisting in my stomach. The attic seemed suddenly smaller, more intimate, almost conspiratorial. Dust motes floated in the sunlight like tiny fragments of memory, and I realized that reading this note wasn't just about remembering the past, it was about facing truths I had avoided for years. The envelope was guiding me, whispering that it was time to confront the joy, the pain, and the secrets that had been tucked away since I was a child. With trembling hands, I smoothed out the paper, bracing myself. I had no idea what was coming next, but a quiet, undeniable pull urged me forward. The treehouse, the letters, the dreams, they were all connected, and the note promised that the next lines would reveal more than I had ever expected. I unfolded the next section of the note, and my heart skipped. The handwriting was steady, familiar, almost tender. Do you remember the summer when everything changed? When the laughter stopped, and the treehouse felt empty? Instantly, a flood of memories returned. I saw her face, my best friend from childhood, the one I had shared every secret with. That summer, she had disappeared without warning, moving to another town overnight. I remembered climbing the treehouse ladder alone, staring at the sky through the cracks in the roof, and feeling a hollow ache in my chest I had buried for decades. The walls of that tiny wooden sanctuary had suddenly felt enormous and silent. Then the note continued. I hid something there for you. Something only you would understand. I hoped one day you would find it when you were ready. My pulse quickened. Something had been hidden all those years? Why hadn't I noticed it before? I tried to picture every inch of the treehouse, the warped floorboards, the small crack where I had tucked letters and trinkets, but nothing seemed familiar anymore. Yet the words felt precise, almost alive, as though the writer knew exactly where my memories had been tucked away, waiting for me to uncover them. I sank to the dusty attic floor, clutching the envelope to my chest. A swirl of emotions consumed me, longing for innocence lost, curiosity about what could have been hidden, and a bittersweet nostalgia that made my chest ache. The note wasn't just a memory, it was a guide, a whisper from the past telling me that something important had been waiting for me all these years. I took a deep breath, feeling both fear and anticipation. The attic felt smaller, more intimate, as if it was conspiring with the past to push me forward. The words seemed to echo, "Are you ready?" And for the first time in a long while, I whispered back, almost trembling, "Yes. I'm ready." A chill ran down my spine as I realized the envelope was more than a message, it was a bridge to the secrets of my childhood. Whatever had been hidden in that treehouse wasn't just a trinket or a letter, it was a piece of my life, a truth I hadn't been ready to face. And now, the moment had finally come. The next morning, I found myself standing in the backyard of my childhood home, staring at the old garage. The treehouse above it loomed like a silent sentinel, worn but still standing after all these years. My hands trembled slightly as I approached the ladder, each step creaking under my weight, echoing the passage of time. When I climbed inside, dust motes danced in the sunlight that streamed through the gaps in the wooden walls. I looked around, half expecting the past to whisper at me, and then I noticed it, a tiny crack in the floorboards I had never paid attention to before. My heart raced. Could this be what the note had hinted at? I carefully pried the board up, revealing a small, weathered tin box. It was locked with a simple clasp, rusted from years of neglect, yet somehow still intact. My fingers brushed over it, and I felt an almost magnetic pull, as if the box was meant to be found exactly at this moment. I knelt down, holding my breath, and opened it. Inside were scraps of paper, faded photographs, and a small charm I recognized instantly. It was the little keychain I had made as a child, the one I thought I had lost forever. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. Each item in the box was a fragment of my past, a message from someone who had cared enough to preserve them for me. The note had been right. I was ready to remember, and now, in the quiet of the treehouse, those buried pieces of my childhood were returning to me, some happy, some bittersweet, and some that would challenge everything I thought I knew about my past. I clutched the tin box to my chest, my heart pounding with a mixture of awe and sadness. This small collection of memories felt like a secret gift, waiting all these years for me to finally understand its meaning. I opened the first scrap of paper, careful not to tear it. The handwriting was unmistakable, familiar and tender, almost like a whisper from the past. I remember how you used to hide here when the world felt too big. I watched you dream, even when no one else noticed. My chest tightened. Those words weren't just memories, they were a validation of feelings I had long believed were invisible. I ran my fingers over the faded ink, feeling an inexplicable connection to someone who had been silently keeping track of my childhood heart. One photograph slipped from the stack. It was me at the treehouse, laughing, with my best friend beside me, but in the corner of the picture was a small figure I barely recognized, a neighbor, watching us with a quiet smile. How had I never noticed them before? Suddenly, the note and the hidden box made sense. Someone had seen me, not just in passing, but truly seen me. I unfolded the next letter. This one was longer, almost like a diary entry, describing moments I had forgotten. It spoke of my fears, my little victories, and even the times I had cried alone in the treehouse. Reading it, I felt both relief and sorrow. Relief that someone had understood me, and sorrow for all the years I had carried those feelings alone. Tears welled in my eyes, but I continued reading, compelled by a strange mix of nostalgia and hope. The notes weren't just reminders, they were a bridge between who I had been and who I had become. I realized that the envelope under the floorboard had led me here for a reason. With each letter, each photograph, and each tiny trinket, I felt a quiet reassurance: my childhood mattered. My feelings mattered. And now, after all these years, I could finally begin to make sense of it all. I hesitated before opening the next letter. Something about it felt heavier, more intimate, as if it carried a secret I wasn't quite ready to face. Slowly, I unfolded it, and the familiar looping handwriting greeted me. I saved this for the day you would need to know, about your father and the reason he had to leave so suddenly. My heart skipped a beat. My father had disappeared from my life when I was 10. For years, I had buried the pain, telling myself it wasn't worth thinking about. Yet here it was, in the attic, in this fragile note, waiting for me. The letter went on, describing moments I had only dimly remembered, whispered conversations I had overheard as a child, small clues I had ignored, and the reason my father had had to make the hardest decision of his life. Tears blurred my vision. It wasn't anger the note stirred, it was understanding, a gentle revelation that made the emptiness I had carried feel less lonely. I ran my fingers over the letter, reading each word as if it were a lifeline. The note explained the sacrifices he had made, the love he had left behind, and the quiet ways he had tried to protect me even in his absence. For the first time, I understood the depth of his choices, and my heart ached with a mixture of grief, relief, and forgiveness. Holding the envelope and letters close, I felt a strange peace settle over me. The past wasn't something to be feared anymore, it was a tapestry of love, mistakes, and memories, some painful, some joyful, all part of who I had become. And as I looked around the treehouse, at the dusty boards and sunlight streaming through the gaps, I realized that this hidden place, this tiny secret space, had been waiting for me all these years, not just to remember, but to heal. I reached for the next letter, my hands trembling slightly. This one felt different, heavier somehow, not just in paper but in meaning. I unfolded it carefully, and the words leapt off the page. You were never alone, even when it felt like it. Your friends, your family, even strangers, they were all part of your story. And one day, you would understand why every small kindness mattered. Memories cascaded through me like a gentle river. I remembered my childhood friends, the ones I had grown distant from over the years. I remembered the neighbor who had always left little surprises at my doorstep, the teacher who noticed when I was struggling silently, the stranger who smiled at me when I felt invisible. I realized then that this tin box wasn't just about my father or my treehouse. It was about every connection I had ever had, the tiny moments of care and love that had shaped me, even if I hadn't noticed at the time. Each photograph, each note, each little trinket was proof that my life had been quietly watched over, gently guided, and silently cherished. A tear slid down my cheek as I whispered to myself, I finally see it. I was seen. The weight of loneliness I had carried for decades began to lift. The attic felt lighter, warmer, almost alive, as if the house itself was breathing with me. The letter ended with a simple line that made my heart ache and swell at the same time. Now that you remember, it's time to carry this love forward. I folded the note carefully and placed it back in the tin box. A quiet determination settled within me. I would not forget these moments again. I would honor them. And somehow, I knew that the next secret, the final message hidden in this envelope, would tie everything together, giving me a sense of closure I had been yearning for all my life. I reached for the last letter, the edges worn but perfectly preserved, as if it had been waiting just for this moment. My hands shook slightly as I unfolded it, sensing that what I was about to read would change everything. There is one truth you must know, it began, the reason your childhood felt fractured, and why some things were kept from you. It was never because you were unworthy or unloved. My breath caught. Memories of lonely afternoons, unanswered questions, and silent tears rose up again. I had spent years blaming myself for my father's absence, for friendships that had ended too soon, for moments that had left a hollow ache in my chest. And now, for the first time, someone was telling me that none of it had been my fault. The note continued, describing a moment from that summer I had never fully understood, how my father had left a message, hidden in the treehouse, hoping I would find it one day. How my friends, family, and even strangers had each played a part in guiding me, protecting me, and teaching me lessons I hadn't realized I was learning. Tears streamed down my face as I read the final lines. You are stronger than you know. You are loved more than you realize. And though the past may have been hidden, it is now yours to remember, cherish, and carry forward. I sank back against the treehouse wall, holding the tin box and the envelope to my chest. For the first time in decades, the ache I had carried seemed to soften. I realized that the note, the letters, the hidden treasures, they weren't just reminders of the past. They were a bridge to understanding myself, forgiving those who had left, and embracing the love I had always been surrounded by, even when I couldn't see it. The attic, the treehouse, the envelope, all of it had led me here, to a quiet, profound peace. And yet, even as the tears flowed, I felt a stirring of hope, a whisper that my story was still unfolding. Sitting in the treehouse, surrounded by the letters, photographs, and tiny treasures, I took a deep, shuddering breath. The weight of years spent carrying unanswered questions and hidden sadness felt lighter now, as if the past itself had softened, finally willing to reveal its truths. I began to reflect on the moments that had shaped me, the laughter I shared, the friendships I had almost forgotten, the times I had felt invisible. The letters weren't just reminders of what had happened, they were proof of the care, protection, and quiet love that had always surrounded me, even when I couldn't feel it. As I flipped through the photographs again, I noticed things I had missed before, small gestures, smiles exchanged, tiny gifts left behind, each one a thread in the tapestry of my childhood. I realized that life had never truly abandoned me, it had been guiding me in ways I hadn't understood until now. The note had done more than bring memories back, it had helped me see myself through a lens of love and forgiveness. The sadness, the longing, the moments of doubt, all of it was part of my story, but now I could hold it without fear. I could finally honor my past without being weighed down by it. With a gentle smile, I whispered to the empty treehouse, "Thank you, for helping me remember." The sunlight filtered through the gaps in the boards, casting patterns that looked almost like comforting hands reaching out to me. I knew the journey wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt a quiet peace. The envelope, the letters, and the hidden memories had given me a gift, the courage to embrace my past and carry it forward with love. I carefully placed the letters and trinkets back into the tin box, feeling the weight of their significance settle gently in my hands. The envelope under the floorboard had not only guided me to hidden memories, it had guided me to my own heart, helping me understand the child I once was and the woman I had become. As I looked around the treehouse, I realized how much I had missed seeing the world through that lens of quiet care and protection. My father's absence, my fleeting friendships, the moments I had thought were meaningless, they were all part of a story of love, of people watching over me, of life quietly nudging me toward understanding. For the first time, I felt a sense of forgiveness, for my father, for the circumstances I had never understood even for myself. The old ache of longing softened, replaced by gratitude for the life I had lived and the memories I could now fully embrace. I smiled through my tears, imagining the little girl I had been climbing this ladder, her eyes wide with wonder and fear, now standing beside me as the grown woman I had become. The envelope and its letters were more than relics, they were proof that love can endure even in absence, that care can exist in silence, and that the past, no matter how hidden, can teach us how to live fully in the present. Clutching the tin box, I whispered to the wind, "Thank you for waiting for me." And I knew, deep in my heart, that this moment wasn't just an ending, it was the beginning of a new understanding, a quiet, gentle peace I had long been searching for. I sat in the treehouse a little longer, holding the tin box on my lap, and let the memories wash over me. Each letter, photograph, and tiny trinket felt like a heartbeat from the past, a reminder that every moment, every joy, every sorrow, had led me to this point. I thought about my childhood friends, my family, the strangers who had offered kindness when I needed it most. Each connection, small or large, had shaped me, guided me, and protected me in ways I hadn't understood until now. The envelope under the floorboard had been more than a message, it had been a bridge, reconnecting me to the people and experiences that had quietly molded my heart. Tears slid down my cheeks as I realized how much love had always surrounded me, even in moments I had felt alone. The ache of longing softened into gratitude. I whispered softly to myself, "I understand now." I was never truly alone. As I looked around the treehouse one last time, I felt a sense of closure. The letters had given me answers, but more importantly, they had given me peace. I was ready to let the past rest while carrying its lessons forward, grateful for the love, the care, and the quiet ways life had protected me all along. I gently closed the tin box, knowing that the envelope's purpose had been fulfilled. My heart felt lighter, my spirit steadier, and a soft, enduring warmth filled me, the kind that only comes from truly seeing and being seen for who you are. I gently placed the tin box back under the treehouse floorboard, making sure it was hidden exactly where it had waited all these years. Holding it for one last moment, I let the weight of the memories settle in my chest. The envelope, the letters, and the tiny treasures had done more than remind me of the past, they had reminded me of love I had forgotten, of care that had quietly surrounded me, and of the resilience I carried from my childhood into every moment of my life. Sitting in the sunlight that streamed through the cracks in the attic boards, I let myself reflect on everything I had discovered. I had been seen, understood, and loved in ways I hadn't realized as a child. My father's absence, the fleeting friendships, the lonely afternoons, all of it now felt connected to a larger story of life, one full of quiet guidance and unspoken support. The letters, each photograph, and every trinket had taught me that memories aren't just relics of the past, they are bridges that connect us to who we are now. I could feel the tension I had carried for decades melting away, replaced by a gentle peace and gratitude for the life I had lived, with all its imperfections, joys, and hidden blessings. A soft smile spread across my face as I whispered, almost to the wind, "Thank you, for waiting for me, for guiding me, for showing me that I was never truly alone." The attic felt alive with quiet reassurance, as if the house itself was breathing alongside me, celebrating the healing that had quietly taken place. And now, I feel ready to carry these lessons forward. I will honor my past, cherish the love that surrounds me, and embrace every moment with an open heart. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and share it with someone who might need a gentle reminder that they are seen, loved, and never alone. Your support helps keep these stories alive.